Here's something most people over 55 don't realize. You can lose up to 1% or more of your muscle mass every single year once you hit your 50s. Not from a disease, not from an accident, just quietly in the background while you're going about your normal life. And by the time most people notice it, struggling to get up from a low chair or finding that jar lid impossible to twist, it's already been happening for years. Here's the thing though, this isn't some unstoppable countdown clock. It's not just aging in the way we've been taught to accept it. Muscle loss as we get older, doctors call it sarcopenia, is real, yes, but how much of it happens to you and how fast is actually shaped a lot by what's on your plate. That's the part nobody tells you. We treat muscle like it's a young person's concern, something for 20-somethings in the gym mirror. But for us, muscle isn't about vanity. It's about whether you can carry your own groceries at 75, whether you can get down on the floor to play with a grandkid and get back up without help, whether you stay steady on your feet instead of becoming another false statistic. So today, I want to walk you through the top 5 foods that actually help you build and hold on to muscle as you age. Not fad diet foods, not expensive supplements, just real food, ranked from good to absolutely essential. And I'm saving the number 1 food for the very end, because it's the one most people your age are eating far too little of. And it might genuinely surprise you how much of a difference it makes. So stick around for that one. Now, before we get into the list, let's quickly reframe something. A lot of us grew up with the idea that getting weaker, slower, frailer was just part of the deal, something you accept gracefully. And look, some change is natural. Nobody's fighting biology here. But natural doesn't mean unchangeable. Research suggests that muscle loss in later life is influenced heavily by 2 things we actually have a lot of control over: how much protein we're eating and whether we're using our muscles regularly. Today, we're focusing on the eating half of that equation, because for a lot of people, it's the easier lever to pull first, and the changes can start showing up sooner than you'd expect. One more thing before we dive in. I want this to be a conversation, not a lecture. So down in the comments, I'd love to know, have you noticed changes in your strength over the last few years? Maybe stairs feel harder than they used to, or you've had to ask for help with something you used to do without thinking. You don't need to write an essay. Just drop your age and whether any of this sounds familiar. I read every single one, and honestly, seeing how many of you relate to this is what keeps this channel going. All right, let's get into it. 5 foods, working our way up to the big one. Number 5 on our list, and a great one to start building your plate around, eggs. Here's the mechanism. Muscle isn't just built, it's constantly being broken down and rebuilt every single day, whether you're 35 or 85. That rebuilding process needs a steady supply of complete protein, meaning protein with all the essential amino acids your body can't make on its own. Eggs happen to be one of the most complete and easily absorbed protein sources out there. Think of them as handing your body a fully stocked toolbox instead of a half-empty one. Nutrition scientists generally agree that as we age, our bodies actually become less efficient at using protein to build muscle, a phenomenon sometimes called anabolic resistance, which means we often need a bit more protein per meal than we did in our 30s or 40s, not less. Practically speaking, this doesn't mean some extreme egg-only diet. It might just mean starting your day with 2 eggs instead of 1, or adding a boiled egg as an afternoon snack instead of crackers. Many people find that simply anchoring 1 meal a day around a solid protein source like this consistently is what makes the real difference over months, not any single dramatic change. All right, let's keep building this list. Number 4, Greek yogurt. Now, here's why this one deserves a spot. Beyond just being another protein source, Greek yogurt brings something extra to the table. It's rich in a specific amino acid called leucine, which functions almost like a switch that tells your muscles it's time to rebuild. Think of leucine as the ignition key for muscle repair. You can have all the parts in the garage, but without turning that key, the engine doesn't start. As we get older, that ignition switch tends to get a little sticky, a little harder to trigger. Research suggests that older adults often need a higher concentration of leucine per meal to kickstart the same muscle building response that came easily in younger years. Greek yogurt happens to be naturally dense in it, which is part of why it shows up so often in conversations about healthy aging. The practical application here is simple. A serving of plain Greek yogurt most days, maybe with some berries or a drizzle of honey if you want it to feel like more of a treat, can become an easy daily habit rather than a chore. It's common for people to notice that swapping a mid-morning pastry or plain toast for a bowl of this leaves them feeling fuller and steadier through the afternoon, which is a nice side benefit on top of the muscle support. Number 3, and we're stepping it up in importance here, fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, mackerel, that kind of thing. Here's the mechanism, and this one's a little different from the first two. It's not just about the protein, though fatty fish certainly delivers plenty of that. It's about the omega-3 fatty acids that come along with it. As we get older, our muscles don't just struggle to build, they also become more prone to a low, simmering level of inflammation that can actually interfere with the muscle building process itself. Picture inflammation like static on a phone line. The signal to build muscle is still being sent, but it's getting garbled along the way. Omega-3s appear to help quiet that static. Nutrition scientists generally agree that diets higher in omega-3 rich fish are associated with better preservation of muscle mass and strength in older adults. Though researchers are still working out exactly how much of that benefit comes from the fats themselves versus the overall dietary pattern of people who eat more fish. Either way, the practical takeaway is encouraging. Aiming for fatty fish a couple of times a week, whether that's a piece of grilled salmon, canned sardines on toast, or mackerel in a salad, is a realistic and enjoyable way to work this in. Many people find that once they get past the idea that fish has to be some fancy restaurant dish and start treating canned salmon or sardines as a quick pantry staple, this becomes one of the easiest items on this whole list to actually stick with. Now, quick gut check before we move on. If this is helpful so far and you're finding even one of these useful, hitting that like button genuinely helps this video reach other people your age who are dealing with the exact same questions. It doesn't cost you anything, and it means a lot to a small channel like this one. Okay, back to it. We're now entering the final stretch of this list, and I want you to really pay attention here because the next two items are the ones that tend to make the biggest practical difference for most people. We've covered eggs for complete, easy protein, Greek yogurt for that leucine ignition switch, fatty fish for calming the inflammatory static that gets in the way of muscle repair, but there's a food coming up next that a lot of people overlook entirely because it doesn't have protein written all over the packaging. And then, right after that, we're going to get to the one food that I genuinely believe is the single most underrated tool for muscle preservation after 55. It surprised me when I first learned about it, and I think it might surprise you too, so don't go anywhere. Let's keep going. Number 2 on our list. Number 2, legumes. Beans, lentils, chickpeas. Now, at first glance, this might seem like a step down from fish and eggs, but stay with me because the mechanism here is actually a little different and just as important. Legumes are a solid plant-based protein source on their own, sure, but their real superpower for muscle health is something most people never connect to muscle at all: fiber and what it does for your gut. Here's the thing. Emerging research suggests that gut health and muscle health are far more connected than we used to think. Your gut microbiome, the community of bacteria living in your digestive system, plays a role in how well your body absorbs nutrients and manages inflammation throughout the whole body, including in your muscles. Think of your gut like the soil in a garden. You can plant the best seeds in the world, all that great protein from eggs and fish. But if the soil is depleted, poor quality, not properly cared for, those seeds won't take root the way they should. Legumes feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut, helping that soil stay rich and functional, which in turn may help your body actually use the protein you're eating more efficiently. It's a bit of an indirect mechanism compared to the others, but nutrition scientists increasingly point to it as an underappreciated piece of the muscle puzzle. Practically speaking, this doesn't require a complicated overhaul. A half cup of lentils in a soup, chickpeas tossed into a salad, or black beans alongside dinner a few times a week is plenty to start feeding that system. Many people notice that adding legumes regularly also helps with digestion and steadier energy through the day, which makes us one of those quiet but powerful habits that pays off in more ways than one. Okay, deep breath. We've made it to number 1. And like I promised back at the start, this is the one that tends to genuinely surprise people because it's not really a single food at all. It's a category most people your age are eating far too little of. Nuts and seeds, particularly walnuts, almonds, and ground flaxseed. Here's why this earns the top spot. We've talked about protein for building blocks, leucine for the ignition switch, omega-3s for calming inflammation, and fiber for gut health. Nuts and seeds are almost unique in that they bring a combination of several of these benefits together in one small package: plant protein, healthy fats, fiber, and importantly, minerals like magnesium and zinc that play a direct, measurable role in muscle function and recovery. Magnesium, in particular, is involved in literally hundreds of processes in the body, including how your muscles contract and relax. And here's the surprising part. Research suggests that a meaningful percentage of adults over 55 have magnesium intake that falls below what's recommended, often without any obvious symptoms, just a slow, creeping sense of stiffness or fatigue that gets written off as getting older. Think of magnesium like the oil in an engine. You don't necessarily notice it's low until things start running rough, and by then, it's been an issue for a while. The other reason this tops the list is how effortless it is to add. Unlike planning a fish dinner or remembering to soak lentils, a small handful of walnuts or almonds can become an automatic afternoon habit. In your bag, at your desk, in the car. Even a tablespoon of ground flaxseed stirred into oatmeal or yogurt takes seconds. Many people find that once this becomes a daily habit rather than an occasional snack, they notice a difference in overall steadiness and energy within just a few weeks. Not because any single nut is magic, but because this one small habit tends to be the most sustainable of everything on this list. And sustainability is really what determines whether any of this actually works long term. So let's bring this all together, because I think this list only really matters if we zoom out for a second. We started with eggs, your everyday building blocks. Greek yogurt, the ignition switch that tells your muscles it's time to rebuild. Fatty fish, quieting that inflammatory static that gets in the way of repair. Legumes, feeding the gut soil so everything else actually takes root. And nuts and seeds, the quiet, effortless habit that ties protein, healthy fats, fiber, and minerals like magnesium together in one small handful. None of these are exotic. None of them require a special diet plan, a subscription, or a trip to some specialty store. That's actually the whole point. The foods that matter most for keeping your strength and independence as you age were never hiding in some expensive supplement aisle. They've been sitting in ordinary grocery stores the whole time, waiting for us to actually pay attention to them. And I want to be really honest with you about why this matters, beyond just the science of it. This isn't really about muscle for muscle's sake. It's about what muscle lets you do. It's the difference between dreading a flight of stairs and barely thinking about it, between needing someone's arm to get up off the floor and getting down there yourself to play with a grandchild and getting back up on your own too. It's the quiet confidence of carrying your own bags in from the car, of feeling steady on your feet on a walk, of trusting your own body instead of constantly bracing for it to let you down. That's what's actually at stake here. Not a number on a scale, not how you look, just how much of your own life you get to keep living on your terms. Now, I do want to say clearly, everything I've shared today is general information, not personal medical advice. Everyone's situation is different, especially if you're managing a health condition, taking medication, or have specific dietary restrictions. So before making any real changes to your diet, it's worth having a quick conversation with your doctor just to make sure it fits your particular picture. That's not me covering myself. That's genuinely the responsible thing to say to you. Here's what I'd love for you to take away from today, though. You don't need to overhaul your entire kitchen tonight. Pick one thing from this list, just one, and try it this week. Maybe it's swapping your morning toast for eggs a few days a week. Maybe it's keeping a bag of almonds in your car. Small, boring, repeatable choices are what actually add up over months and years, not dramatic overnight transformations. Your body is remarkably capable of responding to good inputs at any age. It's not too late. It was never too late. So, as always, take care of the body you've got because it's the only one carrying you through this one beautiful life. If this video was helpful, I genuinely appreciate it if you hit subscribe. It helps this channel keep making content like this. And if you know someone, a parent, a sibling, a friend who could use this list, send it their way. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. And of course, drop a comment below and let me know, which one of these 5 are you going to try first? I'll see you in the next one.